I want to be clear with you all that a new day has come. To San Francisco, to Oakland, to Baltimore, to Ferguson, to Atlanta, there is a movement sweeping this country, and we are not going to stop until you stop killing us.
Shut it down! Shut it down! The time for the middle ground is over.
On today's show, we're going to spend the first half hour turning our attention to attacks on the immigrant community, state of detention centers, and resistance by the people. Our guests this morning are Niko De Bremaeker, managing attorney with Centro Legal de la Raza and the Alameda County Rapid Response Network. Good morning, Niko.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Did I say your last name right? You can correct me. It's okay.
No, you said it great.
We're also joined by Esmeralda Santos, lead organizer with Inland Coalition for Immigrant Justice. Good morning, Esmeralda.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. And Kimberly Woo, community organizer from Services, Immigrant Rights, and Education Network, known as SIREN. SIREN serves our immigrant and refugee communities in the Bay Area and Central Valley, and also are part of the ICE Out of Dublin coalition. Good morning, Kimberly.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Okay, there's three of you. Luckily, we can see each other. I will direct questions to one person, but everybody can weigh in. Just give me I want to say something too, Kat. I want to start broadly. So we are hearing and have been hearing, I just want to make it clear for my listeners, though they know because they follow this issue. There's always been crisis in our immigrant community. There's never been a president or administration that's treated them well, and detention centers have always been operated as concentration camps. Everything has escalated under the current orange dude. Esmeralda, I want to start with you and talk specifically about the Adelanto ICE Detention Center, which has been in the news lately, where detainees have launched a hunger strike. Can you start talking about the conditions inside of that detention center that got us to where we are now?
Yeah, thank you so much. So as of a month now, folks inside the facility have been doing a rolling strike, which means that their strike will start and stop in order to be able to continue the strike and keep it ongoing. It has primarily started out of the urgency from the living conditions within the facility. It is unlivable, folks. There's molds literally in the facility causing people to not feel very well. In order to have access to water, it's these really big jugs that Geo has to refill. Once the water is done, Geo takes hours, and so folks go hours without water. Folks, and not to mention also to mention that food itself is not the food, the water itself has bugs, sand, so not even drinkable in the first place. Guards are not even cleaning the facility as either. So folks are taking it upon themselves to clean the facility, but this has been leading to issues. Folks are getting injured. Folks don't have the proper cleaning supply to be able to clean the facility. So in general, conditions are unlivable, inhumane. There's also a very unjust bond system. So folks are really feeling frustrated with the way that bonds are decided and also with the rates that folks are being given on these bond funds. These bond funds are extremely, extremely high, and there's also a very, very high rate of bonds being denied. So this only shares some of the conditions folks are uplifting. But I did want to point out that these types of conditions in this facility have been existing for many, many years. Under this administration, it has been heightened and exaggerated and become extremely more dangerous. But yeah, a very critical time right now. People are really attempting to get their voice lifted, and wanting to see change and really want to really see these facilities be shut down.
Kimberly, you're doing a lot of nodding, so I want to bring you in and allow you to comment on Adelanto, but also talk about this is there's no such thing as a good ICE detention center, correct? Like, they're all sort of horrific.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much to Esme and the rest of the Inland Coalition for supporting those people who are in Adelanto. The part of the reason why I was nodding is just hearing these horrific conditions is very, very upsetting. And as you pointed out, Kat, there's no good detention facility. We want to see them all shut down. There's no way to make these conditions better because at the end of the day, they're still incarcerating our loved ones in inhumane conditions. I think detention center is like a direct contradiction to our values of dignity and safety for everyone. That's part of the reason why I was nodding, because in order for us to free everyone who's trapped in these detention centers, we as a public have the duty and ability to shed light and on these dangerous conditions so that we can help support those who are inside, support the loved ones who are inside across those bars.
Nico, I want Geo is the group that operates Adelanto. What can you tell us about Geo and their history and what do we know about them?
So the main for-profit prison companies running these detention centers are Geo Group and Core Civic. They have a long history of abuse, of illegal behavior inside these detention centers, poor conditions, poor infrastructure, needs not being met. And I think what we're seeing throughout all these detention centers that are run by them is that these types of abuses keep recurring. So at every single detention center, and I'm sure it's the same for Kimberly and Esme. Every time we're hearing these stories out of Delaney Hall, out of Camp Peace, Montana, these are the same. These are the same facts that we're hearing at all these different detention centers, and medical neglect, poor conditions inside, food being rotten, pests inside food. I had my last visit. I spoke with folks, and one person was telling me that they found a rat in a package in a wrapper, and they tried to report it, but the person ignored them. A person a person in the cafeteria who wears a MAGA hat every day, and at every interaction tells folks, "Make America Great Again," and calls detainees animals. Folks with HIV, diabetes, who have severe medical needs that aren't able to see a doctor. It just defies the conscience, what we're seeing. And yeah, the fact that it's incomprehensible that these companies are able to operate. And these should definitely face incredible scrutiny.
Operating and playing in our faces. I mean, we've had elected officials. I mean, some people trust people that are elected to office. So we'll just go with that thread that have been in there, seen it. We have the family members of people saying what's going on, yet Geo's response were that they, resented the accusations. How could anybody talk about them in this way? Nico, you touched on two threads, and someone can just let me know who wants to take it, that I wanted to hit on. One of them is, I've been in the movement for a hot minute now, so I've been through a series of, in different movements, folks that choose to put their bodies on the line via hunger strike in order to resist. That comes with really severe medical consequences, and those medical consequences kick in real fast, right? And it's not like, and I heard Esme, I heard you say, right, like people are rolling, they're rotating, which is great, and you don't just bounce back from those medical conditions. Like once your body starts to deteriorate as a result of not taking nutrition, air quotes for those who can't see me, that's given inside the detention centers. So I guess I always, when I'm hearing about it inside of American concentration camps, be they, regular state or federal prisons or detention centers, I think about how the impact is compounded by the poor medical care. And then, people love to pretend that COVID is over, but these kinds of diseases that spread in the air, right, are also compounded inside of these facilities, which again, the impacts are compounded because of the medical services. Again, air quotes are so horrific. So I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that and what you're seeing. Esme, you look like you're getting ready to unmute.
Yeah, I was just everything you're saying is very spot on. One of the one demand that I forgot to mention was specifically around medical care. We're seeing that ICE is detaining folks and placing them into these cages, but folks are coming into these facilities already with very specific needs, and their family members are coming to these centers, showing doctor notes, bringing them medicine, bringing it right to them, knowing that their family member needs it. But instead of even acknowledging, they turn families away. They shut down folks that are attempting to do advocacy around their own medical needs. So it's this horrific cycle of stealing folks from the street, placing them in a cage where they're completely isolated, and the medical staff is completely incompetent. And so from basic medical needs from to the hunger strike, we're seeing that folks are not being given their proper care. I was recently just speaking with someone that works at a carceral facility, and she's a doctor within that facility, and she got the opportunity to visit Adelanto with us and provide like one-on-one advice on how to care for your body during the advice to the folks. And so she was mentioning how you have to drink a very specific vitamin for your body to be ready to ingest food again at the 5-day period. So she was sharing this with folks, and she was extremely appalled to see that the medical staff in this facility was not providing that care or even that knowledge to people within the facility, which is their basic right to even know. And so, yeah, that's why I was nodding. I think through this, it's really exaggerated how inhumane and how Geo really is just using this as an opportunity to continue profiting off people.
I was just looking because I like to call out names. So I was trying to see who's providing the medical care. ICE Health Service Corps, private contractors. The GEO Group has their own doctors, nurses, and mental health. Again, air quotes, workers. All right. Nico, the Donald Trump's entire presidency, first and second presidencies, have been rooted in attacks on immigrants. We know in 2015, and as soon as out the gate, his attacks, his verbiage was attacking immigrants. We also know that we saw hate crimes escalate against Black, Brown, USCNs, as Namagianfi says, and immigrant communities. I think what we've learned is his first presidency, basically, he told us what he was going to do, right, when he ruled the world, and now he's doing it. But I'm wondering the key markers between presidency one and presidency two, and materially what that's meant for immigrants, like the trajectory to where we got to where we are now.
Yeah, thank you. That's it's um, an evolution that we have seen from the first Trump administration. What we were seeing then was appalling and horrifying at an unprecedented level. And at that point, with the federal separations happening, with MPP, the remaining Mexico policy, it already defied what we thought was possible within this country and within our institutional framework and constitutional boundaries. What we're seeing now is just a whole other level of creating this intentionally cruel and inhumane system. This what we're seeing on the ground in the detention centers and in ICE enforcement generally around the country, it's not some byproduct. It's not because of overcrowding or because of just funding or whatever. It's a very intentional, very clear policy to instill fear, to create inhumane conditions for the sake of them, and it's doing so much harm to immigrant communities, to Black and Brown communities, and yeah, what strikes most about it is that it's all pretext is gone, and it has brought this institutional level of harm. I call it torture to unprecedented levels.
Thank you, Nico. Kimberly, I want to talk a little bit about the fight in our backyard. Well, I don't know where you're based. I'm in Oakland. And that's FCI Dublin. So I spent a lot of time covering FCI Dublin, leading up to its closure because of the rampant sexual assault against women there. Now, the conversation, last minute, has been about whether or not it was going to be reopened to be an ICE detention center. Can you talk about that fight, where it stands, what's going on with that facility? Which, for listeners that aren't familiar, like it's basically it's like in the middle of a desert, basically. If you go there, it's what it looks like. The infrastructure deteriorated, no adequate anything, hot as hell. Um, I'll hush now. Kimberly, can you talk about those efforts, please? That campaign.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we're working with the ICE Out of Dublin coalition to not only shut down FCI Dublin because it was shut down, but also to demolish the building so it can never again be reused to incarcerate any of our loved ones in the future. So a bit more context on FCI Dublin, and thank you, Kat, for bringing it up. FCI Dublin is a formal federal prison located just 20 miles southeast of Oakland. So you mentioned you're from Oakland, very close to there. I also would say it's right at the end of Bright's Blue Land line, so it's all accessible to us, and that's how scary it is. Just to name a few, FCI Dublin is very urgent. It's currently standing and built with the capacity to hold up to 1,000 people. It has environmental hazards of black mold, of asbestos, lead paint, cracked sewage pipes, the possibility of radiation from military experiments when it was a former military base. The list just goes on. And this is all within a mile of multiple schools and parks and just 1,000 feet from a housing development. Now, FCI Dublin was closed in 2024 due to powerful organizing by survivors to shut it down, and it was shut down for good reason. Then flash forward a few months after that in 2025, BOP, Bureau of Prison staff reported to the press that ICE was eyeing the unsafe, FCI Dublin facility. So here's where we're at, basically. BOP announced its intention to dispose of FCI Dublin by transferring it to the General Services Administration, or GSA. That is the agency that manages federal property and is also the agency that has an ICE search team whose main responsibility is to secure more property for ICE. So then after it goes from BOP to GSA, then GSA could then transfer the property to DHS, Department of Homeland Security, or Department of Defense. Basically, it goes BOP, GSA to DHS and ICE. Now, in this transfer process, they are required by law to publish environmental assessment, which is what they did on Friday, May 1st. There was a 1-month public comment period in which the ICE Out of Dublin Coalition worked really hard to garner over 6,000 public comments across the country, which is absolutely amazing because that shows our people power. But I just also want to explain a little bit more about the environmental assessment. The environmental assessment considers BOP proposed action, which is to permanently deactivate and close FCI Dublin as a federal prison, which again means transferring as is to the GSA. I want to be very clear, this environmental assessment is a really dangerous juncture because it brings us one step closer to an ICE detention center. Because BOP wants to dispose of this vacant, crumbling building that should never be reopened. They want to dispose of it to GSA, who can sell it to ICE and DHS. So that's why we're at this really critical place, because now that the environmental assessment public comment period has elapsed, the coalition is really focused on emergency response planning. So we really want to ensure that our Bay Area communities, including Dublin residents, know about their rights, know what legal resources are for each other, know what's happening in their backyard. So it goes from canvassing to non-cooperation trainings to everything that we can do to protect our communities.
Yes, Nico, go ahead.
Yeah, I just really want to praise the ICE Out of Dublin campaign and the work of people like Kimberly in this. It's been very powerful. And this environmental assessment, again, it shows the extent to which that this administration has abandoned just institutional values. And because the way in which they drafted the environmental assessment, they make no mention of a later transfer to ICE. Which is very telling because clearly that's the intention of it, and the report even alludes to it in certain parts, but they just avoid all mention that that is what the actual plan is. It's just a behavior that we have not seen from government agencies in these official documents like this, in official policy action, government action like this. Yeah, it's just very telling of everything that we've seen from this administration.
Nico, I'm gonna stick with you for a second because the Alameda County Board of Supervisors, right? They voted that no, this couldn't happen. I have, and for a while now, been saying it doesn't, and we've seen this administration not care what local, state, county people say about anything. It does what it wants to do. When this administration, this he came to power for its second regime term, I was in a bunch of rooms, people talking, what do we do? What do we do? And one of the questions in terms of what do we do is like, what tools are still available to us? And I'm like, I'm gonna start with Nico and then Kimberly and Esme, you feel free to answer. What tools are still available to us, right? Like to fight back. And there's been big question about whether or not the courts are a tool that is still accessible to us with an administration that thumbs its nose at the courts. And one of the first planes we saw leave this country that was packed with people that have been immigrants, have been disappeared, well, immigrants and some USians have been disappeared from their communities, flew away in the face of a judge saying, nah, you can't do that. And we've seen that pattern continue. So from your perch, from the legal perspective, what tools do we have to fight back? Does it matter, and this Kimberly think about it, does it matter that Alameda County Board of Supervisors said no? Like if the feds want to do it, they're going to do it, yeah?
Well, I think everyone has a role to play, and it's hard to say whose action is more powerful. I think it's combined action from community organizers, community leaders, neighbors, attorneys, activists, and I think we've already seen the impact of it. We're fortunate in Northern California to have very strong backing, very strong funding for this work, and we're actually seeing the lowest ICE arrest rates in the whole country in Northern California. And I think the work, again, that work is because of so many people doing this work, so much dedication, so much sacrifice. It also includes people at the detention center going through these hunger strikes. It's really this broad coalition that is making this happen. In the courts, we have seen successes and losses, and we have seen some government action ignoring the courts, especially early on. But we also have seen in litigation that we have brought, that it has brought upon real change. Some examples are the California City litigation by our partners at CCIJ, Prison Law Office, who during my last visit to California City, I already saw the changes there. It really has an impact, and ICE was forced to follow it. Again, no person should be held at California City, and it's still a horrendous, horrifying, dystopian place that no human being should be held. There's the Pablo Sequin litigation that has had enormous impact on the detention center conditions in San Francisco. Again, no human being should be held there, but the impact is real. The Garapinche litigation that we're a part of has stopped a lot of the ICE arrests in Northern California, San Francisco area of responsibility. The litigation can have an impact, and while we've seen these excesses where the administration is ignoring court orders, is incredibly concerning and incredibly alarming. In other parts, we do see the administration abiding by court orders, like we've seen in litigation that we've brought. But again, there's no telling what will happen there, and we have to be very vigilant. And that's why we're constantly following up with this and seeing if any of these violations are happening. But again, it's such a broad coalition. The community organizers are doing so much work, and I really have nothing but praise for the people who are out there every day doing ICE verifications, talking to neighbors, doing KYR, Know Your Rights presentations, and talking to each other.
Thank you. So let me be clear. I wasn't asking if somebody was more powerful than the other or comparing efforts. I was talking about the administration that is thumbing its nose at legalities and then how that impacts organizing strategy. Um, So I just want to be real clear. I wasn't saying anybody's work is more important than the other.
No, I
We
don't.
need everybody. I'm known for saying all roads in, and it's got to be all roads in this moment, right? Like even electoral politics, which makes me sort of vomit in my mouth a little bit, but we got to do it. And thank you all for your work. I see you, Kimberly. You're champing at the bit to say something. Please do.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually just wanted to answer your question too about the Alameda County resolution. So I want to
Yes.
be clear about something. FCI Dublin is on federal land, so it's a whole other beast within itself. That's why we need to use and analyze federal laws like National Environmental Policy Act or NEPA to stop FCI Dublin from reopening as an immigration detention center. Now, the Alameda County actually, let me backtrack. The ICE Out of Dublin coalition really advocated and mobilized your community to get the Dublin City Council to unanimously formally oppose FCI Dublin from being reopened as an immigration detention center. From there, earlier this year, around February and March, we then got Alameda County to pass a similar resolution. Now, these public resolutions are so important to show public record of opposition and show that nobody ever wanted this in their backyard. That is now can be used as grounds in the future to say that, like, hey, look at the community. Nobody wants this. And that public record is very important. I also want to touch on something that Nico mentioned, and I want to say that, like, thanks to community organizing to end ICE contracts in the region, there are currently no ICE detention centers north of McFarland in California. So I really want to emphasize that because we have the power to not only stop ICE detention centers in the Bay Area, but also use that power to the rest of the state and the rest of the country to abolish ICE and demolish all of these, like, terrible ICE prisons. I mean, speaking more personally, like, I had loved ones who were detained at California City, and it was very upsetting because I couldn't. It was very upsetting seeing my elderly loved ones who immigrated to this country for a better life, like, break down crying behind a glass screen window, right? And I couldn't touch them. I couldn't verify if they were telling me the truth when they said I'm okay, because the only way to contact them is through the phone, the same phone that's being monitored by the guards who controls everything that they do, from, like, their eating, their walking, their sleeping, and when those same guards are also watching you, right? And it was just such a painful experience I would not want anyone to ever also experience, which is why it's very important that we not just only focus on ICE out of the Bay, but ICE out of everywhere in general. And we have the power to keep preventing and pushing back against ICE, and that's why we need more people to either join us on the ground or support us from afar, whichever way you can. All support is needed.
Thank you. Esme, I'm going to give you 60 seconds for your closing statements.
Thank you. Yeah, I think what I want to say is that whether we know it or not, there's a way we can all be a part of this movement. Kaiser itself has invested into GEO, and I'm pretty sure workers at Kaiser don't know that. So, if it's divesting, if it's uplifting the voices of your loved ones, if it's, supporting mutual aid, there's just a really big opportunity here for all of us to unite and make sure that these centers do close down and our loved ones are no longer caged in these centers. So that's my little snippet.
Thank you, all of you, so much for your work and for joining me this morning. We'll continue to cover and track, and likely we'll ask you to come back again.
We remain the vanguard of resistance of this country. The terrorists are law enforcement agents that are working to kidnap, disappear, and incarcerate our community members. And I want us to be real clear, we ain't never seen no time like this. This is a new game, and you all better sit down. We better sit down and inhale the realities that are on the street right now, and understand that the moves that we have made now, that the impacts of our people, the increased desperation, the increased violence, the increased homelessness, the increased deportation, the increase of all of that is coming down the road. And so people ask you what to do now, get ready.